Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 12, titled Still. This episode I really enjoyed because of the fact that it just honestly felt different to me compared to some of the other episodes. It didn't really focus on, ooh, are they going to survive, or, how are they going to escape this, turmoil, with all these zombies and this and that. It was really a more somber, reflective type of episode for both characters, both, Beth and Daryl, as far as them, going through the apocalypse now that they may or may not be the only two survivors as far as they know. And it was just really interesting seeing them go through this where, Beth is trying to, in this episode, she's kind of trying to get a drink because she's trying to sort of advance beyond just thinking about her father, and she's trying to move on and kind of be her own person when you look at it, where she's trying to do, things she never did when her father was alive, because she has to find some insane way, to really move on. And her way was like, I never had a drink before because of my dad, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have a drink, and that's gonna be my, very small first step to getting past, losing my father. And on the opposite side of that, she's with Daryl, and he's just really locked in. He's just tight, just a prison within himself, and he reverts back to something that was, even more distant than when he was introduced into the show. And back then, he kind of stuck with his brother, but he still interacted with other people, even though he kind of just hated everybody because his brother did, so he did. But obviously over the last two seasons, he really bonded with everyone. And then in this episode, along with the last episode they were both in, excuse me, he's just, like I said, he's just locked in, like he's like a prison within himself, and he's just shut down. And it's like, this doesn't matter, that doesn't matter, nothing matters except us living. But like there was this scene where Beth was attacked by the zombie, and he, she takes care of it, and she's like, thanks for the help. And he's like, you said you could take care of yourself, and you did. And so it was like, I want to survive, and I'm gonna hunt, and, and he hunts the snakes and stuff like that. I'm gonna do what I want to do, or what I need to do to, survive myself, and, I'm gonna help you survive too. But other than that, we're everyone else is dead. We're the only two left alive, and it doesn't matter if they are alive because we're never gonna see him again. And he's kind of in that mindset where it's like, we're in this, apocalypse now. Who knows, even if they are alive, what are the odds that we could possibly find them? And that's just where he's at mentally. So he's kind of shut down, even with the one person, he has with him. But I thought it was a really good episode. It was just really interesting because there wasn't a lot. Like, there was a lot of dialogue, but I felt like it was honestly like 50-50, where some of the episodes it would be a lot of dialogue, and, the characters would be walking around and stuff. But in this one, I felt like there were a lot of scenes where there was just, no dialogue. They were just going through areas and, like searching for, like, Beth's alcohol and stuff. And then, they find the house, and that's where we get to finally dive into, why Daryl is being the way he is. And it's because he, it's not that he's just like, oh, well, everybody's dead, I need to just, be myself again. It's because he feels like he got everyone killed because, he didn't keep looking for the governor, and he feels responsible for getting Beth's father killed and getting everyone else killed, and he doesn't know if he'll ever see anyone again, and he assumes he won't because he's, not really having any faith. He's just thinking everyone's dead, and even if they're not, we won't find them alive. So, it's basically the same thing. And I thought that was a really amazing scene where, he kind of breaks down, and he starts crying, and Beth has to hug him to just comfort him in some small way. But I thought that was a great ending to the episode. It's not what I was expecting. I thought, they'd have their episode where they're going through trying to survive and stuff, and, obviously it would be more about Beth than Daryl, and it mostly was. And it was her, and that's really because she was actually expressing herself throughout the episode, and Daryl was, doing the exact opposite, where he was holding it in the whole time until the very end. But I really enjoyed it, and we did ultimately get to have both of them, go through their moment, and, Beth got to have her drink, and Daryl was able to finally let out the fact that he feels responsible, and that he does actually, feel pain, like Beth knows that he does. and he finally let it out in tears. And they burn the house down at the end of the episode. That kind of helps Daryl in a way, because he was, when they're in the house, he's like, my dad had a house just like this, the little bucket here for spitting, and the sort of it was like a bra ashtray that his dad would put on the TV to shoot at for target practice and stuff like that. And so he burned that house down, and it kind of helped him get rid of a portion of his past in a sense. And we also learned that what he did before everything went crazy was nothing. He was just a drifter with his brother, and he just followed under his brother because he was the younger brother, and that's just what he did. He followed under him until everything went crazy, and then he still did the same thing until they eventually got split up. But love this episode. Like I said, fairly different, and I guess it's just because it's those two characters. They're so they're so different. Beth and Daryl, especially with Daryl having this sort of internal monologue where he's like, I feel responsible, so I'm just gonna shut down, and Beth, you know, just being upset, and she's kind of outspoken about it. So it was really interesting to have that sort of dynamic where, like I said, there wasn't a ton of talking when you really look back at it. It was really almost like a complete 50-50, where half of the show was talking, but half of it, if you really sort of timed it out, there was just, them moving from space to space, and there wasn't actually any dialogue. Like the first, I think 5 minutes of the episode, there was no dialogue. It was just them moving, and they kind of signaled each other, but it was just them moving around. And it might have only been like the first, I mean, it was before the actual opening started, so I think it may have only been like 1 or 2 minutes and not 5. But, the whole first section, there was no actual dialogue. And it was just a really cool episode because of how different it was, and just the fact that those two characters aren't really put together, so it's good to have that new dynamic for the show. But love this episode, love the ending to it, where they kind of, in a sense, they're both sort of revitalized and able to, go out into the world and have like at least a little bit more hope, and in the fact that they can find other people. And Beth was able to get Daryl to see, or to admit how he actually felt, and to realize that even if he feels that way, they can't just sit around and give up. They have to go and find the people they love, and the people they lost, if and find out whether or not they actually are dead or alive. But ultimately, it was a really good episode, and I'm definitely excited for next week. I love the preview I saw where they're kind of like in the fog and stuff. That seemed really cool to me. I thought it was an interesting concept for the show. But as far as this episode goes, comment below, let me know what you guys thought of it. Favorite parts, least favorite parts. And what do you guys think of the dynamic between, Beth and Daryl? Did you guys enjoy this sort of, half of it was talking, but most of it was really just, quiet, motion, based stuff? Or did you guys wish it was more of a talk-based episode because you kind of got bored or something? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.